Today and tomorrow's posts, I moved one over to the other. Part of the reason was because I have this brand new swag that my folks got me. I'm left-handed. What's your superpower? I learned, having shared that I was a lefty at seminary, a Latin phrase that was provided to me by a professor. Don't let, in Latin, the word for left-handed, right-handed, as if on polar opposite sides, don't let the left hand know. The word for left-handed is sinister in Latin. Don't let the left hand know what the right hand, the word in Latin for the right hand is righteous. So don't let the sinister know what the righteous are doing, because static and constant conflict. And that applies both from without as much as from within. So we've got a stain of sin on us at any given moment. Now, it's kept suppressed if you're trying to run clean. And right now, with dieting, look, today it's no sugar oatmeal, which is very good for the system, for the diabetics. Steel oats, no less. And running clean spiritually, emotionally, physically. Today's Bible passage, when this video gets posted, is from the book of James, aka Santiago. James chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, has a Zen moment, if you want to call it that, where the writer is wrestling with this eternal struggle, it seems, until we make it to, we have to get past the end of the beginning, as I like to call it, what we're in right now, in the throes of stuff happening to us left and right. And then will come a time when we enter into a fullness. We receive uploaded, upgraded for the purposes of paying it forward, of extending oneself, of going across the horizon, not unlike the Holy Spirit moving across the face of the waters, horizontally. But one day, like this, we are maybe even being offered shuttle service with an Ezekiel chariot, is how it's going to work. An entire book was provided, really interesting reading from somebody who has worked for NASA, no less, and discussing the theories of, well, how do we reproduce? In the short answer, you can't, but at least the study itself was really interesting and written in layman terms, so it's simplified. The spaceships of Ezekiel. Go and check yours out. Here's the supporting. Oh, great. Now that I got it going, I can't. Oh, here we go. These are the supporting materials for what these intros, the briefing that lead off on most of the daily magazines. It's a daily digital devotional that gets published right here. Whoops. Manna infilling, preaching primarily to nerd and geek targeted demographic, the likes of which you're not going to find anywhere else. And on the flip side, because that's not all we do, the entire banner of all of this is under a nonprofit organization that's just been created, federally recognized. We're able to provide you with annual summary statements of your donations for tax write-offs if you want to participate in the benevolence redistribution that we do right here. So all of that is under the new banner that was created called Alliance Chariot. Very proud of it, very happy to say, doing our part on a daily basis. The magazine, Daily Digital Paperless Devotional Magazine, I just showed you the link to, Pipeline Laser Ray Gun, includes on Saturdays and Sundays, every single day at work for the Lord, every single day, because the hunger is there every single day. Do you eat every day? Well, there you go. The other one is once a month, toward the end of each month, and we've got one coming up near the end of October. And in all likelihood, my better half is going to make a bag with some candy as if it were trick or treat. But we provide Bibles and reading glasses, typically in these care packages. They run us about $10 a piece. We haven't taken a penny for ourselves. I'm entitled to a salary, and that's a full-time job. You're welcome out there. By the way, among the Baker's dozen, 13 or so items that go in these bags, I'm picking them up later tonight. We've got stickers that are going to go on the bags. This is money. Stickers, however, that are super, super cool. Could not resist. It's a way to promote and for the homeless people. Homeless people have smartphones. Homeless people are not completely bereft of modern technologies. They're better able to handle the economic disruptions, FYI, newsflash, than you are, most of you, because they've been through it. They've been through the campaigns of battle. They know. We're putting a QR code to our ministry's only interactive hub, which is on Facebook. It's an actual QR code sticker that's going to go on the future care package bags. I'm so excited. I went yesterday to order 600 of them. We go out and hand out 80 care packages at a time, bare minimum, monthly. And so we've got a few months of supply ahead. 2-inch by 2-inch. It's going to look like that. It's really cool. I decided today this verse from the book of James. By the way, I didn't pick it. It was picked by longtime collaborator Ambassador Gandalf, because he's been meditating. He's been out of town the last couple of weeks. So at House Church, we've had 2 so far that have been featured on the YouTube channel of ours, the official YouTube channel. You should subscribe to this. Just go down and click. All these ministry resources are free, well thought through, and when you copy, paste, and forward it one to another, it's credited to you, not me, as having performed evangelism, soft touch, right from the creature comforts of your lazy boy chair. You want it any easier? I don't know what to say to you. Gandalf has been musing. He's very savvy. He's the Jedi Master for sure. About this thing of the Apostle Paul summarized it in one sentence, basically. What I do, I don't want to do, and what I don't want to do, I do. And this is a constant thing that happens inside of us, back and forth like tennis volley. We want what's not going to do us any good. We want stuff that harms us. We're very good. Christians do a great job of giving themselves a black eye. Don't worry about turning the cheek one to another. The cheek's going to move involuntarily or through your own doing dum-dums. Present company included with that. In fact, I'm probably leading the charge of that. The Apostle Paul, the walking contradiction, the 2022 equivalency. You're looking at him right here, Batman. But I don't let me stop me from carrying out the work that's needed to be done. Now, I want to show you something here. At first, I clearly saw my spiritual antenna said when he first started coming out with this, oh, I've had a come to Jesus moment. Oh, look at me. I said, watch out for this guy, because he's been an operative for either directly or indirectly, either knowingly. His mama died on an operating table. A mother that was educated and on the extreme left of left belief systems, totally sold out for Hollywood, dies for vanity's sake, getting plastic surgery. This is the official narrative. Now, who knows if this is not the case, but this guy who had started off very antichrist gets photographed Kanye West on the cover of Rolling Stone as Jesus with the with the crown of thorns bleeding from his head, as if he was, and he called himself for a while Yeezy, as if to say, easy Jesus, or I am the likeness, the kind of equivalent to Christ. These things are blasphemous. Charlemagne the God, Charlemagne the hack, Charlemagne the fraud. Curse and rebuke you. May God deal with you for saying things like that. It's so that's a reprobate. Look up that $2 word. But then something curious has happened to West. He now refers to himself as Ye. No longer Yeezy. You know, he had that opera that was an affront to God also, and I covered that. You'd have to scroll here. All of the years of stories are there. The only thing that I haven't done with that is where you could punch in keyword search words and it would come up. I'll have to look into that, but we covered for a long time the tracking the enemy movements. Very suspicious of Kanye West. Oh, I'm a Christian now. Oh, I'm teaming up with Joel Osteen. Who's Joel Osteen? Mega church, prosperity gospel. He himself could be one of these proverbial wolves in sheep's clothing I don't trust. Or trust but verify. In the case of West, by the way, bear this in mind. This is super important. The enemy operatives, whether he's one of them, TBD, to be determined, but the enemy operatives know scripture way better than the majority of you. Backwards and forwards, it's part of their requirement. The only thing is they acquire a seminary grade level of expertise at what's in there. So in order to twist narrative, but they are expressly forbidden from wielding it like a weapon. They cannot do that. It won't work. They don't have the juice that you and I have access to, whether you can use it. You need training. You need to be able to master the weapons from God's armory. If you don't, you just think you're going to get in there. Remember this. There are no child soldiers. There are no child brides. So if you aspire to be part of Christ's bridal party, you've got to earn stripes on a military uniform, and you've got to be a seasoned spiritual military veteran. None of this rookie jazz. You're going to be fed to wolves if that's the case. Literally, your butt will be handed to you. If you storm the gates of hell and you don't know what you're doing, you're not ready for prime time. Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game. This is to me what Kanye West, if he really had a change of heart, if he really repudiated what he's got, what he's doing. But I'm about to show you a section of a 2-hour interview that he had across 2 nights with Tucker Carlson. A section of it that to me, the first part was compelling enough that I shared the entire 1 hour a couple days ago. This is part 2, and I've only had the chance to really chew on it. And it so happens that Gandalf then brings into spiritual Bluetooth synchronicity this issue of forces that are wrestling within us. The left hand, the right hand, all part of the one anatomy, physiologically, but at the same time, constant conflict, constant struggle. Oil and water don't mix. So if you've got both, there's always some type of friction, and you hope for the daily manna to come down to settle it all, to bring it into alignment, right? Spiritual alignment. So check this clip out, and then I'll resume telling you what I think. Okay, here we go.
Sometimes because I'm like, I'm going to protect my kids. I'm going to protect my reputation. I'm going to protect my brand. And there's times you have to pull the guns out. You have to pull the swords out. You have to have righteous indignation as a Christian for everyone that ever said, I can't get mad because I'm a Christian. As a Christian, it's like, yeah.
I don't understand how you can work and be so successful and influential in the music business and the fashion industry, the 2 most liberal businesses probably in the world, as a professing Christian with a pro-life badge on, how does that work?
I always think, whenever God allows a brilliant idea to channel through me and allows me to somehow, take credit for it, I always snicker at the fact that with liberals, their main tool is, that they use are artists and influencers, right? But then God has the number one artist and the number one influencer as a conservative. So I always chuckle at that. Every time I come up with some brilliant, I'm like, could you imagine if, they could have just indoctrinated Ye? The world could have just totally been ran into the hole. And there's battles that the devil had won, but the devil's a defeated foe. Like, for me to have gone from Jesus walks to you're such a hoe, I love it, that's that deviation from the path. So, I love that question because I really, every time it just tickles me, like that the very thing that liberals use the most of, they don't have the best person at it.
These statements now, demonic operatives, not to say that this is the final consensus. This is analysis, right? People can change. You are to hate the sin, but you are to evaluate. Remember, it's a cumulative score. So you're to evaluate when somebody is making a claim like, I've had the dark side. It's like the image of the, like the old school cartoons. You have the angel on one side, the devil on the other side, and the guy now, instead of calling himself Yeezy for Jesus, the blasphemous thing, and he released, by the way, speaking of danger, be very careful, wolf in sheep's clothing, he had released a version of the Bible where he substituted his own name in places of Christ. So keep that in mind in the back of your head, right? Ooh, what are we dealing with here? Because the enemy is provided knowledge, right? They are students of the word, of what to say, the right things to say, getting close to the mark so that you are compelled. Well, maybe Kanye, now he calls himself Yea. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Maybe the most famous use of the word yea. Yea, I will fear no evil. Well, this thing could be hitting you right in the face. The devil's not going to knock on your door with a pitchfork and a long tail fully red, right? Or like the devil Tim Curry from Legend. He's not going to show up like that. It's going to show up disarming as something that he's not, right? So this whole thing about him having had, an epiphany. Ooh, now I see things a little bit differently. I see how I've been manipulated. I've been a tool for the enemy, and he's just used me as he uses many people in Hollywood. That's the basic thing that he would have you understand before even he has something to add or say. And that's where the 2-hour conversation drifted into different topics. He says to himself, he says as part of the interview that he's going to become president of the United States. Doubtful. Too polarizing. And also, I'm still not sold. I'm still not sold on the guy having had an about face completely a 180 degree. Maybe he's at 90 degrees instead of 180, so maybe he went like this. But not fully like this. That's my current where I see the guy. I'm not on the bandwagon. I'm definitely not on Joel Osteen's bandwagon, that's for sure. So to be continued, but he does express this thing that he's wrestling with. Remember, the wrestling is not against the handlers in Hollywood, in his case. The wrestling is against powers and principalities where, and in his case, somebody who has all the money to be able to shield himself from a lot of the ills of life that the average Joe has to go through. But the evil that lurks attacks all demographics, is not a respecter of how much money you make, your status here, the temporary table scrappings that you've been given by pottery shards and shadow puppets, the marionettes that you are being controlled by a puppet master somewheres. This guy could well be one of those puppets, right? However, he's talking as if there's more clarity. This is the whole thing, is that we see, as Paul said, we, humanity, but there's people who break the programming. I'm not saying he can't do it. He might be able to do it. We'll see. This is a thing. This is a roller coaster that's moving. It's a tempest, and he's got a platform that reaches a ton of people. So he could be somebody that God, just like the Apostle Paul, right? Saul was he before he became Paul. So Saul of Tarsus was a persecutor to the point of using every thing in his arsenal, both legally, he was a great legal mind, spiritual rules and regs, the law, the Jewish law, Old Testament, at his disposal to persecute, to make life a living hell for Christians, for the early Christians. And then Christ blinded Saul and said, when he came out of the blindness, your name is Paul. Now, we're not going to call you Saul, we're going to call you Paul. And you're going to work for me now. So it could happen that whether it's West or other figures, that's why we need to pray for those who right now may be antagonizing us, clamoring for censorship and Bible burning. I mean, what's the extreme? God can reach from the furthest depths and bring a person that's a demo rat, that's a leftist, that's a hardcore, a pro-choice, and break that off of them. I speak it. I declare it. I issue an edict. How can he do that? Well, if you're gushing, if you are in this to win this, you carry with you overflow, sending out embers and fragrance. And first of all, an FYI, you cannot give what you don't have. So go out and get it. And if you're not getting it from a mega church with its warm fuzzies, no cold pricklies, no fire and brimstone at the yawn Sunday services that you attend, who is to blame? Nobody's pointing a gun to your head, forcing you to go to a particular house of worship that is empty and bereft of blessing. Who is to blame, dum-dums? Wake up, sleeping beauty. Wake up. Wake up. That's your meditation for today. See you tomorrow, troops. Batman off. Signing off.